Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Prescott Town Council's January meeting. It is January 27th. It is 6 o'clock. So we'll move on to item 1, call the meeting to order, and then right on to 2 for approval of tonight's agenda. Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Myself, second by Councilor Jansman, that the agenda for the council meeting of January 27th, 2020 be approved as presented.
Thank you very much, Councilor McConnell. Any comments, questions on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 3, declarations of interest. Anyone have a declaration tonight? Seeing no. 4 presentations, nil. 5 delegations, same thing. So it takes us on item 6, minutes of our previous council meeting. 6.1 is the regular council meeting minutes from back in December 16th. Councilor Ostrander.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councilor Young, that the council minutes of December 16th, 2019 be accepted as presented.
Thank you very much, Councilor Ostrander. Open it up for comments, questions on that set of minutes. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. And 6.2, special council meeting minutes from January 6th. Councilor Shaker, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ostrander, that the special council minutes of January 6, 2020 be accepted as presented.
Thank you very much, Councilor Shankar. Open that up again for discussion. Any comments on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. And 6.3, one more set of special council meeting minutes. This one from January 11th, 2020. Councilor Jasmine, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor McConnell, that special council minutes of January 11th, 2020 be accepted as presented.
Thank you very much, Councilor Jasmine. Again, open the floor to comments, questions, anything from members of council this evening. Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 7, communications and petitions. 7.1, action items. Nothing on the agenda tonight. 7.2 is the information items distributed under separate cover. Quite a hefty information package today. Councilor Burton has that motion.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councilor Young, that the information items under separate cover be received and filed.
Something has come between us.
Thank you very much, Councilor Burton. So open it up. Anyone have any comments on the information items this evening, or would like to refer them on to committee? Well, that's a first. I should probably move on before a hand does go up. All in favor? Motion carried. So item 8, committee reports. 8.1 is committee of the whole report 01-2020. One item there under A, committee of the whole minutes from that evening, which is of course the January 6th meeting. Councilor Young, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ostrander, that the committee of the whole minutes dated January 6, 2020 be accepted as presented.
Thank you very much, Councilor Young. Open it up for discussion. Any comments on that side of minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. And 8.2 moves us on to last week's committee of the whole. That's report number 2-2020. Item A is the set of minutes from that evening. Councilor Ostrander, you have that motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councilor Young, that the committee of the whole minutes dated January 20th, 2020 be accepted as presented.
Thank you again, Councilor Ostrander. Any discussion on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. And 8.2B is the Prescott BIA South Grenville Chamber of Commerce item on the joint coordinator and location partnership. We heard this from last week. We do have a motion coming forward tonight. Councilor Jansman, I believe you have that motion.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor McConnell, that council approve the town of Prescott support the joint coordinator initiative and location partnership for the Prescott Business Improvement Area in the South Grenville Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $13,400 for 2020.
Thank you very much, Councilor Jansen. We did have quite a significant discussion on this last week and deferred it to tonight. And I know it's not standard procedure, but if everyone's okay with on the council tonight, I know we'd have a number of representatives from the BIA and the chamber. If it's okay with you, I'd like to invite them, if they do want to speak on to this item this evening. Obviously, there's enough come out to represent both organizations. If everyone's all right, I would offer the opportunity. Ben, did you want to say anything at all?
Well, sure, I guess, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. So as some of you may know me, I'm a business owner here in town. Also own a store and see a lot of opportunities. Part of the BIA on the board of directors as well as on the chamber for the last year and a half. See a great opportunity and synergies as we can collaborate and do great things in town. One of the test pilots that we did was just before Christmas for the Santa pictures at the store. We saw probably over 300 people over three visits. And that was a collaboration between the BIA, the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the town. We see great things happening. We want to change things up a little bit. So I think it's a positive to look at creating that synergy and having one shared resource and potentially having a location downtown to help get that exposure.
Thanks very much, Ben. I just didn't want to offer that opportunity because you obviously brought quite a number of representatives out this evening, and I believe there wasn't a general awareness that the item was coming from last week, or else we probably could have invited you in to speak to at committee, which would have been a more appropriate location, but thanks for coming this evening. So with that, the motion is out there. I will open it up for discussion, comments on the item this evening. So, Councilor Young.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. And as you recall, last week I expressed my reservations. I had concerns and misgivings based on 40 years of experience with the organization. I was one of the founding members back in 1979 when the BIA was introduced. I do not want to see the BIA fold, as was presented as one of the possibilities. I took the week to discuss the matter with Mr. Armstrong. I expressed my feelings about what we might do instead. I did have an opportunity to talk to both Ben and Belinda, and I'm quite satisfied that and Dana, actually. I'm quite satisfied that the professional way that they are approaching this position, I'm prepared to support that motion tonight.
Thank you very much. Further comments, questions? Councilor McConnell.
This is a tough one for me because I have been a member of two BIAs downtown Prescott from, well, I was manager at WLP's furniture store from 80 to 86, and then I had my own business down the street for 10 years after that. So I'm aware of what the BIA does, I'm aware of how the BIA operates, and subsequent to that, I was with the Brocco BIA for 10 years. And I know the good things that can come from a BIA organization, but my experience is in retail business. It's not in a service field, shall we say, like a bank or a lawyer or an accountant or something like that. So I look at the BIA from a retail standpoint. And from a retail standpoint, right now, I don't think the downtown BIA is, if I had a business downtown, I don't think it'd be doing me any favors, quite frankly. When I was a member of the downtown BIA here, the stores were full. There was, when you had a sidewalk sale, which was probably the biggest events we had downtown, the street was downtown Prescott was the hub of not only Prescott, but at least in my opinion, southeast Augusta Township and southwest Edwardsburg Township for 100 years. And our commercial space grew, and there was a lot of business there. But in the past 20 years or so, we've had the Walmart effect, and that is well known across North America, that it basically sucks business out of every town for 30 miles around and makes it very difficult for small businesses to survive. In the last 10 years or so, we also have the internet effect, which is also sucking business out of downtowns. In addition to that, Prescott has a greater than average proportion of senior citizens, and I happen to be one, but I don't spend the money that I used to. I don't wear out furniture like I used to. I don't wear clothes out like I used to. I don't have kids in the house that are buying food, buying clothes, so I don't wear things, I don't spend as much money as I used to. And when I look around my neighborhood and I remember what it used to be like 50 years ago and what it's like today, there's a hell of a lot less people there, and the people that are there are largely retired, or there's a couple rather than 4 kids in a house. So I tend to be rather long-winded about I always get criticized for that, or at least kidded for it, I don't know. But I took a walk downtown around 4 o'clock today, and I did a count. I didn't write anything down, and if all of us were to do the same walk and do the same count, we'd probably have a different figure. But what I came up with was approximately 30 locations, I guess I'll say, storefronts, that I don't think really benefit from the BIA. I don't think it would matter whether the BIA was there or if it wasn't. They're going to do business anyway, or there's nobody in the store at all. It's vacant. I don't think that the taxpayer, which is essentially what you're asking us for, should be required to kick in 1/3 of an employee for the BIA. I think it's great that the BIA is working together with the chamber. I mentioned last week, did you ask Edwardsburg Township, Edwardsburg Cardinal, and Augusta for some money as well, because your chamber is in those townships? And the answer I got was no. So I wasn't satisfied with that. At the end of the day, I really can't support this. I just don't feel it's a justifiable ask for me. Based on my work experience, what I've experienced, I don't think the BIA in its present form in just the downtown is worth an extra $16,000 from the taxpayer. Right now, you're getting taxes from a lot of vacant businesses that are getting no benefit from the BIA. So Ray has thought about this a lot, as he said. He's kind of changed his mind on it. I've thought an awful lot about it too, because, as I said, I was a member of 2 BIAs, and my business benefited from 2 BIAs. But as it stands right now, I'm afraid that I really, much as I would like to, I can't support this. What I would suggest, and I thought of this earlier, thought I was through there, didn't I?
We do have time.
No, I'm not going to tell them tonight.
Well, tonight's young.
I mean, part of this is for a location. So, if you don't have the money together to hire somebody for 36 hours a week, you've got 2/3 of the money. So, why not look at 24 hours a week? If you don't have the money to find a location to pay for, why not look to somebody that can share a location with you? And the name that came to mind for me Shakespeare, who also came to us looking for money. I don't know that they need an office of that size. I mean, they have their board and meetings in there. They are looking for help as well. Perhaps something could be done there. But I think working with the money that you have, I would love to support the BIA, but with the budget that you have, not an extra kick from us. And I apologize for being so long-winded, but that's just me.
Thank you, Councilor McConnell. Councilor Jansen, please.
Mine remains the same as last week, and in Dana's thorough report, it was stated that both BIA and the Chamber are struggling in capacity in the state that they're in now, and we're in the position of taking, for lack of a better word, two broken, well-intentioned organizations and giving them the tools to help fix themselves. And we can't have in our strategic plan to keep our downtown as a main focus and not exercise for an amount of less than 14,000 and not support this. Thank you.
Councilor Burton.
Thank you. Last week I did have a lot of questions about the BIA and the Chamber, and one of the questions I had, both organizations have been struggling for quite some time. That is a known fact. And they're going down the same road. And what are their thoughts about coming together as one, putting their resources together, and maybe hiring, like Councilor McConnell was just saying, a part-time person of 24 hours, using a shared space. That definitely could be a possibility, and then look at that position in 6 months and say, you know what, yes, we do need somebody full-time in there. I was on the BIA for the four years on my first term, and we accomplished a little bit, but not as much as I think that we could have accomplished. I'm just worried about they're going down the same path, and they should probably look at going down a different road together. So unfortunately, I'm on the fence at this particular moment. I do like to hear what others' comments are around the table about this, and then I will decide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, gentlemen, I think you're the others at the table that were just referred to. Councilor Shankar, we'll start with you.
All right, thanks. I even asked today if there would be a conflict, because I'm a member of both Chamber and BIA. But since I'm not getting any money for it, I guess I'm not in a conflict. So my concern last week was, you know, when an organization needs money, they just come to town and ask for money, right? And I really like the report that Dana put together this week. It ticked a lot of boxes for me in terms of measuring deliverables of your coordinator. You know, what's expected of them, what's going to be done. I really like that. I do like the suggestion of working within your budget. And I think one way of increasing your budget to BIA is to change the borders. Like try and recruit more businesses that will help supplement the BIA's, revenue. Then you can afford it. I think that's one way of looking at it. I also believe if you're going to be called the South Grenville Chamber of Commerce, you got to hit South Grenville. You know, we had a hospital come down from Kingston looking for money and telling us about all these patients that come from this area. And we asked them, hey, did you check out the other area, like Augusta or Edwardsburg? No, we just come to Prescott. So you get that little feeling that, you want to call it South Grenville, but you still want Prescottonians to foot the bill. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't hurt at least to see you guys ask them to help.
We actually, when we started looking into this 12 to 18 months ago, our president, Lonnie, had reached out to all of the areas within, all the areas that we represent, and at that point in time, they were not interested. So when conversations started again, approximately, 6 or 8 months ago, once again, Bonnie did reach out, and at this point in time, the town of Prescott was interested in having this conversation, but our other business partners were not. So that those questions have been asked.
Okay, great. And that's the other thing that I got from either the report or when I was doing some research this week. You guys have been working on this for 12 to 18 months, is that correct?
Preliminary conversations started about 12 to 18 months, I would say, maybe 6 months?
Of active, meetings,
Active.
discussions.
And yeah, really picked up the BIA table because we did kind of miss out the first part of the year when we redid the bylaw here and everything. So it's been actively discussed since the summer.
So that's where I think last week it was kind of, we need to know today, we defer it a week, and then find out you guys have been working on it for a year. It's tough to have us commit right away if you guys have been working on it for a year, and you give us a couple hours to figure out. So, we'll see. It's hard when they're sitting here, because I know every one of them. But, that's not going to be the reason why I make a decision for or against.
Last but not least. Well, last term I was a council rep on the chamber. I was a frequent visitor to the BIA meetings as well. And if I was a little boisterous about this last week, I maybe calmed myself down a little bit. There is a need for a common push, and I think Dana probably laid that out to us quite well. And that seemed to be the theme during my recent years involved with both agencies. But the common theme has to be identified, has to be, if you're going to pool your resources, so to speak, you have to do it for that common theme. And I think promoting the whole area is really what everybody comes away from the table asking for. And so I have changed my rant of last week a little bit. I've softened it a bit. And I've seen that there is a need for something, but it has to be well coordinated. It has to be agreed upon. I mean, it's hard for the BIA to see everything that the chamber is doing. It's hard for the chamber to appreciate everything the BIA does. So there has to be, shall we say, a joining of ideas, common ideas to get these things going. The town goes in fits and starts, it goes for a while and then it kind of dies off. So we'd like to, I think everybody would like to see a more consistent, I don't know if goal is the right word, but a more consistent programs that have sort of bring service. And the older we get into, and it's seasonally, but we do pretty good in the summer and the nice weather, but this time of year things flatten out a little, so we have to look at what can we do in the downtime to sort of revive it and keep it going. Thank you.
Very much. Anything further from members of council this evening? Give you a quick one.
Yeah, just very quick. One thing that did concern me when I read, and I again, would echo Glory's comments, Dana's report was very thorough. But one thing that concerned me was the fact that you folks are looking for $13,000 this year, and the report did say that next year it was $16,000. I don't think council should be getting into a yearly commitment to supply the BIA with a third of its budget. And that's one of the reasons that I'm not saying this. Thank you.
I don't think, there's just commitment to the end of this calendar year. Dana, did you have a comment on that? That's, we're looking at the 13.3.
And I don't know if the first report did an adequate enough job, but we really wanted to stress that this is very much a trial. We were just trying to give council a sense of if it did become a permanent initiative supported by the organizations, this would be the potential annual cost. But both organizations also fully recognize they do not want to jump in both feet. They want to approach us on a trial basis as well. It would be reviewed on a quarterly basis, both the location and the joint coordinator position. And then a report would come back to council, probably December 2020, either requesting ongoing support, or, there's also, once the organizations have capacity, they can start sourcing external funding sources that could also offset that ongoing requirement from council. So by no means did we want to give you the sense that this is going to be a permanent ongoing thing. It's going to give them a year to have some capacity to try and find some more resources to maybe at some point become self-sustaining organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just one more quick thing.
Yeah, sure.
So if this was to go forward, can I get an assurance from the BIA that you're gonna look at changing your boundaries? I know that's a bylaw.
Absolutely, we've already been discussing that. Yeah, that's a huge concern.
Boundary discussion and associate membership, we've been discussing that already.
Okay, and that would increase revenue for
Yes.
you? That, and then, can you also maybe approach the other two councils as well?
We can definitely follow up, absolutely.
And that suggestion that Councilor McConnell made about sharing space with Shakespeare, is that a viable option?
It's something that has come up at the BIA table. I know, but I don't think there's any location. We actually looked at a couple of spaces. The one we'd actually focused in on actually was rented, the one we looked at in November downtown, but I think it's still pretty much open there on what the location would be at the end. But I think from the BIA perspective, all those partnerships were definitely on the table.
And the last thing I had, I think in your report, Dana, it said that the coordinator would report to those two organizations on a monthly basis?
Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion around the table, having the importance of having members from each organization form a subcommittee that's going to look after the performance management of the position. But I do believe that there would be the involvement of a town staff person, whether it be the CAO in that, having ongoing reporting, of course, to ensure that council's investment is also protected and you're getting what you want from the position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Burton?
Thank you. Maybe something else to be considered is, we are thinking about investing into these organizations. Would it be in the best interest of the coordinator and maybe the chair of both organizations to come back in, say, 6 months and give us a report and how are things going and what are they doing and if it's working, if it's not, what events that they're planning, etc. Something to consider.
Certainly. Anything further? Okay, I'm going to weigh in here a little bit. I'm just going to say right off the bat, I support this, the same reasons I supported it last week. I think we've got to give both organizations a chance right now to restore themselves, to get on a more productive and proactive path with promoting the downtown and promoting the town overall. That said, it's a challenging time, as Councilor McConnell did mention. It's a very good point. We're in a time of transition for downtowns, and we're actually seeing that here. Where the biggest development we've got going on in the downtown is a residential property, no commercial downstairs. We all supported it here, or have supported it so far. We've talked about, there's still site plans and things that have to be done, but that is the biggest development down there, and it is not commercial. That sort of shows you where the market is for downtowns now in regards to brick and mortar retail. So the BIA was established in 1979, as Ray said, and as Lee said, that's when that was the glory days of brick and mortar. It's a very different era now, yet the BIA is still structurally very similar to what it was 40-some years ago. So the BIA has to transition as well, and I think this supporting this position gives you the ability to do so, because with the capacity issues, the $28,000-$29,000 budget a year, it makes it very difficult to do anything but sustain the status quo. I'm supporting this tonight for two real reasons. One, I believe in the people in the room, because I've seen the positive changes within the BIA, and I know there's good things happening with the chamber as well. So I support the people that want to help us turn things around and build the town. And the other reason I support it is because I think you need to give you both organizations the chance and the capacity to turn things around. Without this position, I don't know what happens, you just don't have the money or the manpower to really affect the positive change that's needed. But the other thing, and this is something that came up, we had a much lengthier discussion last week, and the one thing I threw on the table, and I think everyone agreed with it, somebody tell me if they don't agree, but the status quo isn't acceptable for us anymore. So in addition to what Councillor Burton mentioned with regards to 6 months, I would suggest this comes back to us well before that, so we can give some direction around this table of what council wants to see out of this position and out of changes to the BIA. I think there's got to be a strategic discussion there heading in, so we all know what we all expect and can work together to achieve those goals. And I think if we all know that and all work together, we can make some great things happen, whether it involves expanding the boundaries, changing some of the mandate. There are really positive changes I think we can make to help the BIA transition to be a more effective organization in 2020, because 2020 is not 1979. The other thing I will mention, and this is where I have probably the biggest problem supporting this, is back to the chamber discussion. And it's nothing to do with the people there, because again, there's some great people involved with chamber now, there's great leadership there. Ben, your role working with both organizations has been superb, as I just noticed you've been attending both, and it's great to have that common ground. But I'll go back to the South Grenville name. There doesn't seem to be the same support there with regards to Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal, as we just heard. And I will support this tonight, but I would not support it going forward unless the name goes back to Prescott and District Chamber of Commerce, if we're going to be the only ones that support it. Because quite frankly, I'm really, really tired of Prescott always losing its name off important institutions in the area, organizations like the Chamber, the Prescott Journal, and many others, when at the end of the day, as Councillor Shankar mentioned, it seems like we're still the ones paying for it, whether it's an organization like the Chamber or it's fire service protection to Edwardsburg, the Edwardsburg Cardinal Industrial Park. Our taxpayers sustain a very serious burden here for the greater area, and we want some reciprocation, or at least we'd like our name on the organizations we're funding. So I'm going to throw that one out there, that I'd like Chamber to have that discussion, because I think if we're going to be the group to back the Chamber with money, and if the location is going to be right here in town, it needs to go back to that name. That's just speaking for myself, but it's something I do feel quite strongly about. And as mayor of the town of Prescott, I kind of have to feel strongly about it. So anyways, I'll just leave off with that tonight. I really support what you're doing, but I would recommend tonight, after we have the vote, we actually get that direct staff, just casual, I don't think we need to capture the motion. Bring this back for a strategic discussion so we can all kind of throw in what we would like to see about that, and that'll start the dialogue going as the new person is hired, depending on the vote in a few minutes. As the new person is hired, as we all work together to try to affect some positive change. So that's all I have to say. Ray, did you have another comment?
The only other comment, yeah, thank you. The only other comment that I had, based on my discussions with Belinda and Dan, the hiring committee. And I think we discussed that it would be one member of the chamber, one member of the BIA, and one member of the town staff, perhaps with Mr. Armstrong being the fourth non-voting member or whatever, because I think we all agree that the key to success is going to be the person that we hire, right? And you've set out a game plan to get the type of person we want, and I think it's important that we all get involved in it, not council, but members of the town staff, right?
Very good point. Any final words before I proceed to the vote? I did want to thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for your dedication to both organizations and to Prescott and the surrounding community. We're only going to succeed here if we work together, so it's great to see so many people out here tonight. I think we're in a better place with BIA and Chamber than we have been for a while. I think the testimonial of that is the presence here this evening, and how invested you good people are in helping us work with the community. I think we'll do this recorded though. Ms. Passman, please poll numbers.
Okay. Councilor Burton? Yes. Councilor Jansen?
Yes.
Councilor McConnell?
Unfortunately, nay.
Councilor Ostrander?
Yes?
Councilor Shankar?
Yes.
Mayor Todd?
Yes.
Councilor Young?
Yay.
6 yeas, 1 nay.
passed, so if we could bring that forward, Dana, if we could task you that to the CAO, we'll look at this and bring it back for some strategic discussions with some input from the local organization as well, and where we can take this with the hiring and what the overall direction is with regards to a lot of the feedback tonight. Gory had some good points about expansion, we had some really good points about the focus, so I think we can try to put this on a nice level playing field for everyone and get this going in a positive direction in the next few weeks. So, we all good then? Excellent. Thanks a lot, folks, for coming in tonight. Let's just sneak in. Turn around. Thank you. Thank you. So one more item under the Community Goal Report 02-2020. That's C, the recommendations for the Community Award Selection Panel. Councilor Burton, please.
I move by myself, second by Councilor Young, the council appoint Mayor Todd, Councilor McConnell, and Shankar to the 2020 Community Award Selection Panel.
Thank you very much, Councilor Burton. Any comment? I believe you've served on this, I think, in the past as well. So, quick comment for people at home of what we're appointing here.
Yes, absolutely. Every year we do community awards and individual citizens, and I believe we're adding business award this year. So citizens can fill out the application and nominate somebody in our community, and it's always a fun evening. We get to celebrate these people and businesses, and we always have a nice reception afterwards. So it's always a fun night to recognize our own citizens in the community.
Absolutely. I believe we've already advertised. I've seen some social media posts, so everyone out there check in with the usual Facebook sites, town official website, Twitter, for how to nominate business, citizen, and volunteer of the year. Had some great recipients in these past, how many years is it now? 7 or 8? It's been a while, 6? So it's a nice, it's become a nice long-standing tradition now, and we did add the business, it was Canadian Tire, I think, one last year, so anyone who's aware of any good businesses in the area, as well as citizen and volunteer, please let us know. And it's open until?
March 27th.
March 27th. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Item 9, Mayor, I'll leave off this evening, nothing urgent. We do have one of the items on the agenda, so we'll move right on to 10, and Councilor Martin, please.
Nothing from me this evening. Thank you.
Councilor Jansman.
I would like to make mention that the BIA is having their annual general meeting on Thursday, February 20th at 6 o'clock at the Chronos Inn. So all, of course, are welcome for that. And I also want to say how Matthew Markel came in 9th in the Nationals last weekend for the senior men's figure skating, and how that just makes Prescott proud.
Yeah, the Saturday night skate, I think everybody in town just happened to see that. It was incredible. I want to also thank Matt for waving Prescott Tuke, I think it was, after the...
we did that Friday night too.
And Heather Wallace for taking the Prescott flag and waving it. Matthew has the flag now, so I think we'll just leave that with Matthew for his subsequent trips to the podium and keep advertising his hometown. So yeah, thanks very much for mentioning that. It's a great moment for all of us. Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. A couple things I'd like to mention. On the 18th, which was a short time ago, I was asked to be the scorer at this year's Weiser Cup Curling Club. I usually play. This year I didn't, so I scored it. It was a very close tournament. It was decided by a quarter of a point in the last game and the last end between 3 teams. And Weiser is a name that's very familiar to us all here. Historically, the cup was presented by J.P. Weiser, not Weiser's Distillery, but by J.P. in, I believe it was either 1904 or 1906. That trophy's been around an awful long time. So that was a good time it was had. Walker House on the 20 we're trying a dinner club. And tomorrow is the first kick at the can, it's at 5 o'clock, it's kind of a potluck. And their theme for this month is the Chinese New Year. So, folks are bringing Chinese-ish potluck. So hopefully that works out rather nice for them. And our library board is in the midst of a new strategic plan for the library, mission statement, that type of thing. We've been working on that for the past month and we'll continue to do so. Libraries, as you know, have been changing their focus and well, you either change with them or you disappear. So the Prescott Library has no intention of disappearing, so we're looking to the future. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Councilor Ostrander.
Thank you, Your Worship. All my fun was last week. I had 3 events. January 21st was a Connect Youth meeting. They're discussing a number of things going forward. They've now have, I think, 6 rental units for the youth who require accommodation. Some in short term, some in long term. They're hard at that. January 23rd is Police Services Board. That was pretty routine. No surprises or nothing to bring back of newsworthy item. And January 24th, Friday was an interesting item. It was, we were invited to the YMCA for the award, the Trillium Award that has been granted to them. MVP Clark was there, Tom Russell from the Trillium Fund was there as well. And the check was for $127,500. And that goes towards the actual infrastructure of the building, but it's much needed because it's getting a little long in the tooth now, and they need some updates and some upkeep. So, Rob Adams seems to be the energy there that they've needed for a while, and a new person in there. And I know Mayor Todd and Councilor Burton got with them here a couple weeks ago. So we look forward, and especially Connect Youth. We send a busload of kids up every Friday night this time of year for their activity nights. It's well done. Anyway, final item is the fire department report for December. I think they had about 28 calls here total. Total for the year last year is 181. And I conferred with my predecessor here, and he tells me that's a little higher than average. It's usually in the 160, 170 range, but given the sort of the outreach things they have to do now, they have to put something on those calls. I notice here for December, total officer calls, 10, that's a little high, and that's where the individual officer goes out and inspects a place where, there's been a fire alarm malfunction or something, and I know we had an extensive issue over in East Street here, and that's for January, so it's that type of thing that takes up their individual man-hour times to look into. So 181 for the year is a bit high, but the guys are, they well account for what they do. I mean, I'm sure they could probably put a few more in there if they wanted to. Just a bit of advance notice. Planning's underway for the Eastern Ontario Firefighters Association Games. They're going to be held here in June of this year. John Henry, Captain John Henry, is collaborating with me a bit, and he has sort of I guess you could call it a wish list or a plan of things they're going to need as far as hands-on, for the street closures and various things. So we're going to get together with that, and we'll keep Matthew up to tune as to what type of things we need and want to answer to that. So that's it for me.
It's going to be great to have the games back this summer.
Yeah.
It's always a fantastic event. It's been a little while. Councilor Shankar.
Nothing really to report. I just want to make mention that people should be aware of our parking bylaws and try not to park on the roads at night when we're removing snow, because that seems to be a big issue. And I want to commend our operations staff that do remove the snow. I know they go in, Sunday mornings at 3 o'clock in the morning, they were in and plowing the snow for us and keeping the roads clear.
absolutely say we have the best clean roads in Eastern Ontario. We've had some sloppy weekends the last little bit, and right after the storm is through, we're pretty clear here in town. Councillor Young?
Number one, I was unable to attend our Board of Health meeting last Thursday, and I will be attending a meeting tomorrow of the St. Lodge.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. So 11 staff, anything this evening, Mr. Armstrong? No. Thank you, sir. 12 resolutions. We do have one item under 12.1. That's the Prescott Cemetery Board of Management. There's an appointment there. Councilor Burton, please.
Thank you. It's moved by myself, second by Councillor Young, and council appoint Valerie Schultz to the Prescott Cemetery Board of Management. So welcome, Valerie.
Thank you very much, Councilor Burton. Again, congratulations to Valerie for putting her name forward. And we need more people on a few boards, actually. So just letting people know out there at home that there are some other boards in the town. I think we have been advertising a little bit on social media, and if we can continue getting the word out.
Sure.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Motion carried. 13 bylaws, a couple items there. 13.1 is the interim tax levy bylaw for 2020. Councilor Young, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. This moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ostrander, bylaw number 04-2020, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy for 2020, being run first and second time.
Thank you very much, Councilor Young. Comments to lead into, I'm sure there's not going to be much discussion, but please.
It's traditionally one of the first bylaws that we pass every year. The need to pass this bylaw is in the event that we run out of cash before the money starts coming in at the end of February. In 25 years on council, that has never happened, and I don't see it happening this year. As you recall from the reserves last year, we keep something like $800,000 in the kitty for this event. So we will not exercise, in all likelihood, we will not exercise this option.
So the same thing last year. I remember that.
It's been for 25 years now, for example. Any discussion? Councilor McConnell?
A question, if I might, and it's for Councillor Young over there in his vast experience. Maybe he wasn't here, but he might know of. We've been doing this so we don't have to borrow any money, which costs us money, and every time we borrow money, we don't have as much money to spend because we got to pay interest. But there must have been some point in time where we didn't have this interim payment. I seem to recall. Did we at one point in time actually borrow money to get us through to the summer?
I don't remember ever borrowing money because we always had the February tax levy. And we always had enough money to get us through till that money rolled in. In fact, at one time, we offered citizens a 2% discount if they paid their taxes in advance. And a surprising number of people did do that.
Sounds like a hint.
No. I think the reasoning that we changed it then is if you give people a 2% discount, then you have to raise that 2% by the rest of by everybody, including the people who took the 2% discount. You have to add that to your tax levy. So only certain people could afford to do that, and it seemed to be unfair to the majority of people.
Any further comment? So basically, housekeeping issue, our reserves are quite healthy, but we do this just as a matter of course each year around this time. All in favor? Motion carried.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ostrander, to bylaw number 04-2020, being a bylaw to provide an interim tax levy for 2020, be read a third time, passed and signed by the mayor and clerk.
Thank you again, Councilor Young. Any final comments? Oh, right.
I did have one other point that I should make. The amount of this levy is approximately 50% of last year's taxes, and it is due on February 28th. And before everybody screams, I know there is a February 29th, but it is a Saturday. So the last working day for the staff would be February 28th. Right.
Sounds good. All in favor? Motion's carried. And one more housekeeping matter, in 13.2, that's the 2020 temporary borrowing bylaw. Councilor Young.
This is the borrowing bylaw. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Ostrander, the bylaw number 05-2020, being bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing for the year 2020 be read first and second time.
Thank you again, Councilor Young. Comment on that, please.
As I explained previously, if we run out of money, this allows us to borrow.
Never do.
We never do.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried.
And it's moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Ostrander, the bylaw number 05-2020, being bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing for the year 2020 be read a third time, passed and signed by the mayor and clerk.
Thank you again, Councilor Young. Final words? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. And on item 14, new business. Any member of council have any new business to present this evening? Councilor McDonald?
I apologize, Your Honor, I should have, Your Honor, you're not a judge, are you? Your worship, I should have brought this up here, when we were talking about information package and we were past it before I remembered, but I noticed the United Counties of Leeds and Granville had a media release in here, and it's got to do with the road work this year, what they're going to be spending money on. And it popped something in my mind that is kind of related to us. It's got nothing to do with road work here, but they had a piece in the paper last week, I believe it was, that as a matter of policy, and I'm sure you are aware of this, that as built or as rebuilt, they're going to be paving the shoulders of roads. This, of course, we're talking about the bicycle ferry, we're talking about bicycle tourism. Our shoulders, kind of at the west end and at King Street, were paved all the way through. However, our shoulders on the east end and the south side end at East Street and Boundary Street going from Prescott East. So both of those roads, I think, abutting us are in pretty decent conditions. I doubt they're going to be paved anytime soon, but we should be looking at a future budget where we pave those shoulders to be in accordance with our neighbors and with the bicycling public, I think. So,
Very good.
something for us to consider.
And we leave that note with staff is something we ought to look at when we are at, counties are at that point where we're paving that area. Okay, excellent point. I happen to run into some people at an event, some cyclists at an event in Ottawa the weekend. We're talking about that, and that came up about the lack of the shoulders and different accidents. Almost every cyclist knows somebody that's gone down really hard there because of that. And I think it was mentioned in the Recorder of Time story about that broken arm, and that happened, I think, the last time the Great Waterway Trail went through. That was right near the DuPont area, and I remember because I knew people. It was actually former Brockville Mayor Dave Henderson was right in that area, and it's the person behind him that wiped out. And so this really helps. I was really glad to see counties finally authorize this, because it's kind of floated around for a while. I know Mayor Malenka has always supported it, so it's great to see this because it is something that we can help advertise and use it to promote that whole overall concept of cycling tourism. So, and actually some people I spoke to, the ferry idea came up as well, and I got actually referred on to the staff, because one of the gentlemen I met was involved in one of the cycling organizations with the province, and knows quite a bit about. Him and his wife cycle a lot into New York State from Ontario as well, and knows a lot of the key dates, times, and organizations in New York State, and had a lot of good things to say about what they're doing in New York State, especially farther away from the border. They go down towards Albany and Syracuse area. So I've referred that on to Dana. I just got that contact information on Friday, but potentially some good stuff there for the ferry, so excellent point, thanks for bringing that up. Is however we can coordinate the connection there when it happens, we should be on that. Anyone else have any new business to bring up this evening? Seeing no, we'll move along to item 15, notices of motion. Any member of council have a notice of motion delivered this evening? Seeing no. So 16 mayor's proclamations. There is one proclamation. There's 16.1 for Alzheimer Awareness Month. The proclamation reads January 2020, National Alzheimer Awareness Month. Whereas Alzheimer's disease and related dementias are degenerative brain disorders that affect over 564,000 Canadians, and whereas every 3 seconds someone in the world develops dementia, whereas in Canada 25,000 new cases are diagnosed each year, and whereas Alzheimer's disease and related dementias take their toll on hundreds of thousands of families and caregivers, and whereas early diagnosis of dementia helps people live better with dementia and allows them to make important decisions about their future needs, and whereas dementia is more than just numbers, it is our friends and neighbors, people we see every day in our communities, and whereas it is not just their disease, it is ours too. Therefore, I, Brett Todd, Mayor of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott, hereby proclaim the month of January 2020 as National Alzheimer Awareness Month in the Town of Prescott, and I urge our citizens to become more educated and aware of the far-reaching effects of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. And of course, this is signed and dated this 27th of January 2020, and I believe the flag has been flying in the foyer at Town Hall for about the last week or 10 days or thereabouts, whatever.
Actually, since last Thursday.
Thursday. So excellent. I believe we did fly that last year as well. And I think it's just that I talked to our CIO briefly before the meeting. It's not outside of the main flagpole just because of some weather issues this time of year, but it is flying in a prominent place. So I want to thank staff for bringing this forward and for the local Alzheimer's associations that do so much in Leeds and Grenville to promote awareness of such an important issue. So, 17th grade for media questions. Friends with the media, any questions tonight? A lot of shaking heads. All right, so we'll move right on to the closed session. We do have a closed session tonight under 18.1, purchase and sale. So Councilor Jansman, I believe, you have that motion.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Burton, that council move into closed session at 7 o'clock to address a matter pertaining to purchase and sale under section 239 of the Municipal Act of the proposal of any acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And as the CAO clerk and deputy clerk stated.
Thank you very much, Councilor Jansman. After the motion, we'll call it really a quick break, and then we'll come back and get into this item. All those in favor? Motion's carried.